Palmistry reading of another person. I do not know his particular age, but I would be pointing out many things on his hand. I would be first talking about the head and the lifeline. Both of these lines are tied down together for a long portion of one's life. Then the second thing is regarding the luck line that I would be talking about. The third is the career line, the sun line, these lines that we are referring to, and the line of skill. These are the most important lines because if a person does have skill, then the chances for their success increases. I would be talking about good times in one's life and trouble that may come up in one's life. So all these things we will be talking about in this particular hand. So the first portion that is most significant that we see in this particular hand is this is the line of head and this is the line of life. It appears that both these lines are tied down together for a long duration of time. Normally this doesn't happen in most people's cases. What does happen is that normally these particular lines are tied down together for a very short duration of time, something like this. Or there could also be a huge gap between the head and the lifeline. So this, when there's a gap, it means that the person is rash, outgoing, never misses out on no opportunities. But when both these lines are tied down together for a very long duration of time, we would say that the person is very cautious, shy, hardworking, and contemplating. So a person who is very hardworking, very cautious, shy, automatically what's going to happen is that the person may miss out on many opportunities in one's life. Now, whenever we say missing out on opportunities, the person may think that they wouldn't be successful. But I would say don't think in that particular way. Because if you take a look at the hand of Jennifer Aniston and Steve Jobs, both of them had both these lines tied down together for a very long duration of time. So such people generally get ultimate success in the later portion of life instead of the earlier portion of one's life. Uh, these both lines, when they are tied down together, it means consistency. It means that these people would be able to do even boring jobs in a consistent way, and they would try to remain committed to one thing, and they would basically contemplate 100 times before changing something else. So, don't think that we need constant changes to get success. Even if you're working on one aspect of one's life or one career, you can still be extremely good, provided you remain committed to that particular portion of one's life. So it basically means that when both these lines are tied down together, these people would be more successful if they continue to do work that they have been doing. Don't change your work too often. And because first of all, you automatically are very slow, and slow doesn't mean that the person is not successful. Slow just means that you take time to think about things and then take your decisions. So such people also I've seen many times they are successful, but in the later portion of one's life. uh, Later portion could be after the age of 30, 35, or sometimes it could also be after the age of 44. This is just an approximate, and this particular sign is showing up in both the hands, not necessarily only one hand. This is the left hand. You would find head and the lifeline, they both are tied down together for a long duration of time. So this is one way of looking at it. The other aspect is that in this particular hand, you would notice that there's another line that is inside. Now, this is a little bit confusing what it should be considered, because it is appearing to be another lifeline. Some people might say that this is a line of Mars. Normally, line of Mars is a little bit different from this particular line. Some person may have a lifeline, something like this, and a Mars line just might start something like this. But to me it appears another lifeline. So what it could mean is, let's imagine that if this was the original lifeline. So if this is the original lifeline, it is encircling the area of Mars. Mars is a red planet. Red means anger, aggression, and fire. And this is the area of Venus. So Venus is the area of energy, stamina, vitality. So whichever area gets expanded, it means that those particular qualities would come in excess in that particular person. So just notice this particular line. It is overlapping the original lifeline. This is the original lifeline. So more area is coming under the area of Mars as well as Venus. So that's basically considered to be one of the very, very good signs. So it means more fire comes to that particular person, or more energy comes to that particular person due to expanded area of the lifeline. Now, whenever both these lines are tied down together, something like this, it could also mean the head and the lifeline. It could mean that the person is under the influence of their guardians for a long duration of time. So this is another way of looking at any particular aspect, any particular line in this particular way as well. Now we move on to the other aspect, that is regarding the luck line that I had mentioned. See, whenever, if there are few lines that are pointing upward from main lines moving upward, it is something like this. This is the lifeline. And you would notice that there are few upward lines that are kind of pointing towards the area of Saturn mount. Okay, so whenever they point upward towards the finger, it is considered to be a lucky sign. It basically signifies that, I'm just going to explain to you in a different way. Just imagine that energy is penetrating the fingers. Energy, light, or anything is penetrating the fingers, and they enter the palm. When they enter the palm, they enter your life. And as they move forward, wherever there's a V or a Y or something like this, we are not looking for English letter words, because whenever I say V, the person might think V means victory. So don't think in that particular way. V is just something like pointing towards a finger is a good sign. So these energies get accumulated out here. They get trapped and they get accumulated. So this portion of life becomes a good portion. And because these lines are kind of pointing backward towards the mount of Saturn, Saturn is the area for money, possessions, and wealth and wisdom. So these particular things are likely to be in good amount during this particular portion of one's life. So this particular portion is somewhere after the age of 35 to 55. That's the portion I'm referring to. So if they point towards the area of any particular amount, those particular qualities get to that particular person. So in the earlier portion, you would notice that there appears to be something like these particular lines pointing towards the mount of Jupiter. Jupiter is the area for administration, religion, politics, and honor. So automatically, the person would be seeking these things in one's life. Just in the similar way, the person is seeking more material benefits. So the person would get more money. So a person who is seeking high position would automatically target towards any particular way, however, like they get a position in their life. So this is the earlier portion of one's life before the age of 18. But the effect of these lines remains throughout one's life, and not necessarily only and only for till the age of 18. So their effect is for throughout their life. Now, to look for success, you don't just need to look at the money line. You can look at any possible line to arrive at the conclusion. So if we just zoom in into the image, you would notice that somewhere close to the age of 35, there is an upward, this is the line of head, and there's an upward kind of a swing that you see pointing towards the mount of Mercury. So any line kind of pointing towards the mount of Mercury is considered to be good, or any other finger. All of them are considered to be good. It just means, like if you go by purely by the Palmistry book, it would say the person could be very good in writing skills. But I would say, because the area of Mercury represents education, it represents skill, calculations, communication. So a person could upgrade their knowledge. Or an upward line from the headline pointing upward could mean some jubilation, some success happening at that particular portion of life wherever we find an upward curve. So there's another upward curve out here. So upward curve is something considered to be extremely good. Think it in a different way. Just imagine that the tips of the finger is the sky, and the base is basically, base of the palm is the earth and the gravity. Base of the palm is the earth and gravity. If from the headline a line was moving a little bit downward in the earlier portion, it would mean mental disappointment. So upward line is the opposite of mental disappointment. These lines are considered to be beautiful. It means probably success in one's life that the person may experience. These some people might say this is a luck line, but I would say it has got more to do with your own set of skills, how you are basically mastering those skills and gaining through it. So this part was regarding the luck line. Now let's move to the line of sun. Now the sun line is something like this. Any line moving towards the sun mount is considered to be a sun line. These all lines are basically pointing somewhere out here. So these are basically sun line. And towards the end, you would find a V or a Y. And V or a Y, again, those things I'm not going to repeat that I just mentioned, energy penetrating, and those get accumulated out here wherever there's a V or a Y. So it is a significant portion of one's life whenever a V or a Y is forming towards a finger. Now, if you just notice very carefully, the strength of the line becomes much better above the heart line. This portion, the line is much more deeper and clearer. So if we go purely by the Palmistry book, I'm just mentioning this portion of the sun line is before the age of 35. This is 35 to 53, and this is 53 and beyond. So the thing is that every person doesn't have a long sun line. The first thing you need to understand is every person doesn't have a long sun line. A person just may have a small line, something out here, and this covers every time of your life, like even the earlier portion and the later portion. So the calculation is something like this is beyond the age of 53. But a person who has a strong sun line somewhere out here, it means that the person would be constantly working, the person would not retire, and the person would always be basically be productive, remain productive even in the last portion of one's life as well. And the ultimate success the person is going to get after the age of 53. Whenever we find that the line is a little bit dim, or there's a wave-like thing. So wave-like formation is something like you are traveling on a hilly road. So the speed is going to get reduced because you have to move through curves and twist and curves. So you have to basically kind of you have to slow down a little bit. So a curvy line is a little bit negative, but if there's appropriate strength, it is all okay. So there's a reasonable amount of appropriate strength in it. But if we compare this portion of the line compared to this portion of the line is a little bit dim compared to the later portion. And a dim line basically means that there could be doubt and self-doubt. A dim line, but this is not so dim that I would say deep doubts are there in his life. So it is something like there are light clouds in the sky, and when you're traveling on the road, probably there are a few clouds that are coming in front of you, and that's the reason why you have to slow down a little bit. So that's the only meaning of the sun line, that is a little bit dim. Wavy lines are not the best. Straight lines moving towards the particular mount are considered to be beautiful lines. We can't quantify the amount of success the person would have in one's life. We can just say if the line is good, the person would get limitless possibilities in whatever they do. So this is what basically it means. Now we move to another line, that is the Mercury line. This is the line of Mercury. The line of Mercury is one of the most important lines according to me, because this is the line of skill and calculations and communication. If these lines are very, very deep, it means that the person is sharpening their skills. If they are a little bit weak, it means that they need to sharpen their skills even further. So, as such, I would say that the line that you see out here, these are of reasonable strength. It means that the person has got appropriate amount of skills in their life. One line means one skill, two line means two, three line means three, and four line means four different set of skills. Even one line is good enough for one success. You don't need to have five, six lines. Five, six lines doesn't mean more success, and one line doesn't mean less success in one's life. They are a little bit cut out here, so cutting off lines reduces the quality to a small extent, but you don't need to worry about, because it does happen that few lines do get, so don't get too much bothered that my lines are cut and what's going to happen. So it's not too bad. If these particular lines were very, very deep, very strong, then basically there could be problems. But light lines do not have any such major effect on one's life. Towards the end, you would also notice that there's a kind of a line that is pointing towards the Mercury also and the Sun also. Sun is more to do with name and fame, and this particular area is got more to do with the skills. So it's a combination of both these qualities that come and join together. Now, some people also claim, many different palmists might say that the sun line is the line of luck. I would say that it is not the line of luck. It is purely how much energies you are giving to your work. When the line is deep, it means you're giving appropriate amount of energies to your work. And because you're giving appropriate energies, the likelihood is that you are going to be successful. And you just might think, oh, I'm lucky. But it's not like that. Because the presence of the line doesn't mean success. It just means giving appropriate amount of energies to your work. And because you're giving energy, that's the reason you become more successful. Some people also say that this line is for name and fame. I don't say name and fame, but automatically the outcome is going to be name and fame, because of the strength of the line is good. You give energies to your work, and that's the reason why you get more name and fame, due to you giving more energies to your work, and there are no doubts and self-doubt. So that's the reason why it is good. Now, if you just look at one different sign that you have is between the first and the second finger. There's a skin pattern, something like this, and it is generally found between the third and the second finger, and between the fourth and the third finger. So those are basically, these particular patterns are more common between these particular fingers, but it is more uncommon between the first and the second finger. Now, it is called the Raja loop. Raja loop basically means, according to one particular palmist, and if you search the internet, you would find it says that a person who has this particular pattern their family might be associated with the kings, or very near to ministers or high ranking people. But I would say it in a different way. I would say that because it is present in your hand, it has got to do something regarding you as well. So it is combining two planets together, Jupiter and Saturn. So just look at the qualities of a good king. A good king would be somebody who has got good administrative skills. So Jupiter is more to do with administrative, political understanding, religious understanding of things. And the Saturn is more to do with the money management, responsibility. It is more to do with being realistic, all these kind of things. So if you combine both these qualities, only then a king would be able to rule in a better way, with better understanding of money and the politics and the administration side. So it's a rare sign to have, and the meaning I've basically explained to you what basically it means. So the skills lines you have seen or in the right hand, they are good. The Mercury lines, they are good. I'm just going back to the left hand. You would notice in the left hand as well, like, see, you would notice a little bit wave is not so good, but because it's reasonably good, these lines are reasonably okay. So I would say positive only. So this is the other aspect. One more thing I need to add out here, when we talk about lucky lines, when we find that there's a cross on the Jupiter mount, it is considered to be a lucky sign. It says that the person might have a happy union. Happy union basically means married into a good family, educated family, and something like that, and maybe probably a rich family as well. So a person from a good background uh, would be his partner. So this is one way of looking at it. The other way is that in this particular hand also, upward lines joining the headline are considered to be good. It means that the person is seeking honor, so they get honor. And this I had already mentioned in the uh, in the uh, in the right hand as well. In this particular hand, left hand, you would notice that the headline is a little bit unclear out here. This is the earlier portion of one's life before the age of till this particular point. The age could be approximately 25, approximately 25, 26. When the lines are not so clear, then we would generally say that things might not be as good. And you would also notice that the headline is kind of ending out here and a new one is developing out here. So new thinking basically comes about somewhere close to the age that I mentioned, 25. Change of the thought process. The first thing is that. The second thing is that there are few backward lines from the headline kind of pointing out here. So this portion becomes a little bit negative, because when lines are kind of pointing towards the area of Mars negative is the area of anger, aggression, and fire. And if any line kind of joins into the main headline, something like this, it means anger and aggression creeping into the mind. And when we get angry, the chances of taking wrong decisions increases. So my advice would be, try to limit your anger, and specifically during those particular years that I have mentioned. So it's a little bit negative to have these backward lines joining the headline. In the left hand, the quality of the sun line is something like this, and again it becomes much better after the age of 53. So this portion is good. And troubles in one's life, I would say that this is the portion of trouble when the line is a little bit unclear, so troubles somewhere out here as well. So this is the earlier portion. This is around the age of 35. The intersection of the head and the money line is age 35. So this portion is before the age of 35. This portion is after the age of 35. You would notice that the quality of the headline improves considered in a considerable way, because there's clarity on one's headline. Now it's a subtle sign to show that things are happening according to one's wishes. When the headline is clear, it means there's mental strength. So even if the person faces huge issues, the person would be able to control those issues. Big problems, small problems, the person would be able to contain. If this area, this is the later portion of one's life after the age of probably 40. So this portion could be 40, this portion is the last portion. So if the quality of the headline remains good, it automatically means things are happening according to one's wishes. So it's not a direct indication, but it is an indirect indication, and a beautiful one. To be successful, you need to have a prominent mount of Venus. A prominent mount of Venus basically signifies that the person is likely to be full of desires, energy, stamina, vitality. If a person has got desires, the chances for one's success increases. If this particular area that we are referring to was very flat, then it would mean that the person lacks in desires. Now it could be the love desires or desire for all the material things. It all depends upon the person, what the person is desiring. What they desire, basically they get. If this area is padded, the Venus area is padded, the chances for person's success increases because of huge amount of desires that the person possesses. And the person doesn't generally get old, and the person remains with their bubbly kind of energies even in the later portion of one's life. So this is these are the main thing. One last thing I would add on this particular image, and I would try to point out a little bit of a flaw. One good aspect and one bad aspect is that this is the line of heart. Now the heart line, whenever it is very simple, it is considered to be better than if there are branches over it. So there you would notice that there are few branches that are hanging downwards. So hanging branches basically means getting distracted, losing focus in one's life. But because these branches are not very strong kind of branches, these branches are just minimal, very, very small branches. So if imagine a situation that a physical heart is here and a branch is hanging downwards, what's going to happen? It's going to tire your heart. So these branches basically bring anxiety and stress, but because they are very small, like there's a very small kind of a branch, so the weight exerted on the heart is going to be very small. So it won't apply too much, but still my advice would be to remain committed to what you have been doing. Then the chances of your success basically increases due to the focus that the person has. If a person has a simple line, then it means more focus. The good part is that the hard line is kind of ending under the mount of Saturn. Now, for a hard line to end under the mount of Saturn, it means your heart is targeting towards Saturn. And heart targeting towards Saturn basically means heart targeting towards money. Money, possessions, wealth, wisdom, responsibility. So these are the qualities of Saturn. They're good as well as bad qualities. The bad qualities is totally opposite, whatever I have mentioned. So the heart line that ends under the mount of Saturn means that the person's target towards the money, and because they target towards the money, they value money, and they pray for money. So that's the reason they would ultimately get more money in their life. You may think that no, everybody wants money. That's not the case. Everybody doesn't value money. Some people would just do things for free and later on say, oh, I didn't get the money. But this person would automatically be targeting towards the money, and they would demand money for the services they give. Now, such a sign is seen in the hand of a businessman as well as people who are in service. For both cases, it is considered to be a beautiful sign to have. If the hard line was long, then the person would have higher expectations, but the person doesn't have high expectation. The person has realistic kind of expectations. It doesn't mean that the person doesn't have ambition. Ambition part comes from these particular lines that I was referring to. So in all, I would say there are good aspects that can be seen in an overall. One last thing out here before I end the video, I think that the Mercury finger is a little bit short and it is not reaching the top line of the ring finger. Whenever it is short, it means sometimes that the person is able to communicate with unknown people, or maybe 10, 50, 20, 30 people in an effective way. But when it comes to people really close by, and really close by are different people at different portions of our life. In the earlier portion, it is parents, then brother, sister, then friends, and then wife, and then daughter, then children. So a short finger basically signifies a person somehow creates distance between their near and dear ones. So this is one thing they need to be cautious about. They need to bridge the gap. If they kind of create distance, if distance get created, so I would advise that try to bridge the gap between your near and dear ones. That is very necessary, and it automatically helps in our success as well. And I wouldn't say Palmistry book says that longer the finger, better it is considered to be, but I found that even shorter finger, people are successful. Something like Pranab Mukherjee had a shorter finger somewhere till out here. So even he was very successful. A short finger sometimes it increases the desire for education. It increases the thirst for education. So however the person might be educated, they would say, oh, I want to educate myself further and further and further. So probably they might, it's not every time it's true, but they might accumulate lots of degree and all these kind of things. So that's it for this particular video. I hope you like this particular. If you like, do subscribe to my channel. Bye and take care.